I want to have a little talk about the Xbox Series X versus the PlayStation 5 in terms of performance. Let's get into it. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Major Ben video. It's awesome to be back. I've been away for the weekend. I did have a couple of videos saved up that still went out, so hopefully you guys enjoyed those. The Steam Deck ones did really well, so that's good to see. But today I want to have a little talk about PlayStation and Xbox and why the PlayStation seems to still be outperforming the Xbox, and it's very, very confusing for me. But I feel like I do have a few theories, and obviously I'd be great to see you guys' theories down in the comments below. But just to say, this is Elden Ring you're seeing running on my PC at native 4K at 60 FPS most of the time. It's a very buggy game on PC. It's not the best port at all, or not the best original version, I should say. The console versions are actually the ports. But let's have a little talk about this. So, yet another game. Elden Ring is performing better on PlayStation. Marginally too, like a decent amount better on PlayStation. It's far more stable and at a far higher frame rate as well. And we all know the Series X is the more powerful system. Like, as someone who is a PC fan and has a very high spec PC, I understand how tech specs work, and I understand that the Series X is a far superior system. And you would see, if these things are being utilized to full extent, you would see the Series X taking like 18 to 30% lead on average, in terms of whether it's a resolution boost or a frame rate boost. And it's confusing as to why still now we're seeing certain games perform better. In fact, I would say more perform better. More newer games, like things like Elden Ring, are performing better on the Xbox. We do get the odd game, like, for example, Dying Light 2 had a resolution, better resolution on the Xbox Series X over the PlayStation 5, but in terms of frame rate, I think the PS5 was still slightly more stable in that game. It's just puzzling me. So I want to talk about this, and it'd be great to get some feedback from you guys in the comments down below, because I just like venting. I like talking about what I'm thinking about at the time and what's kind of going through my head. And right now it is that. And since launch, since the very first few games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, that was performing better. There was massive frame drops in the Series X version in certain areas. Devil May Cry had a better, I think the 120 FPS mode was better on Series X, but the ray trace mode, despite the power of the Series X, was better on the PlayStation 5, or the other way around. I can't remember what it was. And it seems something that's becoming a pattern and is not what it should be. In fact, what we've heard and what we've been told by so many people is that the Series X should be having that increase, which is correct. I agree. I've said the same thing multiple times, and I don't understand why this is happening. And all the PlayStation fanboys will tell you, oh, Mark Cerny's a genius. The SSD that everyone said shouldn't make a difference is making a difference. That's not the case at all. That is utter dross, and those guys should be just removed from the tech industry entirely, because SSDs do not mean performance. I have a faster SSD in my PC than there is in the PS5, and it does not make a difference from playing it on there compared to playing it on one of the slower SSDs in terms of performance. It does in terms of loading speeds, but pixel performance, resolution, FPS, nothing is different in that regard. So that's ridiculous. And on the other side, the Xbox fanboys will tell you, oh, it's the tools not being utilized, which is technically correct. The tools are not being utilized. Elden Ring is not using full RDNA 2 features. It's not using velocity architecture to its fullest. Those are not in use. And that is my primary reason here. I do believe that because they're not using tools on the Series X or the PS5 for that matter, they're also not using all the tools on PS5, just to put that out there before people start getting upset. They also, so they're not using the tools fully to the full extent on the Series X and PlayStation 5, more so the Series X because it does have more tools available to it. But I think the main outlier reason here is due to the clock speeds. I think because of these games still being catered to Xbox One and PlayStation 4, they are primarily designed in terms of on console to run for those games, and then upgrades for those consoles, and then upgrades are taken from those games and those consoles and then put to PS5 and Series X. And I think they're still designing it around these bad Jaguar cores on the previous gen hardware. So I think because of the high clock speeds in the PS5, obviously the Series X does have a better CPU, but it is clocked with lower speeds compared to the PlayStation 5's CPU. And I believe that maybe because of those clock speeds, how highly the clock speeds are on the PlayStation, sorry, I think it's able to boost things like frame rate to run at a slightly better frequency right now. Whereas in the future, when more games are taking use of, 8 cores, 16 threads in the Xbox Series X, I strongly believe that those will be utilized, and that will be when the PS5 is punished slightly, because obviously the PS5 is a variable clock speed. When it needs more GPU usage, those clocks on the CPU do have to decrease, unlike the Series X. Everything on the Series X is stock. It is how it runs the whole time. Nothing will change there. So I think that in the future of games is going to be a massive outlier, and where the Series X will pull ahead, not to mention full RDNA 2 support. I do think that really is going to come into play over the next few years of the generation. Obviously, this is a long generation. I believe both Sony and Microsoft have said they're potentially not going to be doing a mid-gen refresh. I don't know if that's true. We don't know. It's exciting to see what happens with that. I personally think they do. I think already these consoles are actually reaching their limits. Obviously, with the tools not being utilized fully, I do want to see the difference it makes between tools not being used and tools being used, because in terms of where it is compared to PC, that Dying Light 2, if those developers can, which they haven't, by the way, if they honestly can come out and say, we've used all the tools in both PlayStation 5 and Series X, these systems, these companies need to do a mid-gen refresh. Like, that game looks like an entirely different game on PC, hence why I play it there, because it literally looks like an entirely different game on PC. I bought it there recently. I bought Elden Ring on PC as well. Playing at native 4K 60 FPS is just, it's so difficult to go back to something that isn't native 4K on my gorgeous display. Like, yeah, I figured everything out with my PC enough to actually use it like a console, where I can use my PC on my desk, and then I can also use my PC very quickly to switch to my TV and play games there in terms of a console way. It's awesome. I plan on doing a video about it in the future, because I feel like so many console people don't realize how easy, if you just take a small amount of time to get things set up correctly how you like it, switching between desktop monitors and then switching between your TV setup in your bed or your living room or whatever, how you want to play on the couch or whatever, is so easy to do. And I do plan on doing a video like that in the future. I also do plan on doing a video about talking about actually how the consoles potentially are a little bit underpowered, and not underpowered. I shouldn't say that, really. That was bad. That was a hot take, but I don't think they're going to live up to the hype that they've been bringing. These ray tracing features are already crippling. When we have a game with ray tracing on Xbox and PlayStation 5, it completely cripples down the game to 30 FPS. And we all know how everyone's talking about 60 FPS games. Most people aren't even using ray tracing on these consoles because they're playing the 60 FPS versions. There are very few games that use 60 FPS along with ray tracing. So we're already crippling those consoles. And, even my RTX 3080 cannot do native 4K ray tracing at 60 FPS. That is so demanding, depending on the title, obviously. It's so demanding. And I don't think people realize that yet. And we've been told and not lied to, we've been told by these companies, on the front of the PS5 box, it's 8K 60 FPS. It's like, that's not going to happen. Maybe in a very few games that are like top-down, very arcadey, basic games, but you're never going to see 8K in an open-world game. Never. You're never going to see 4K in an open-world game, let alone 4K 60 FPS with ray tracing on a console. Like, that's just never going to happen. And I feel like people are literally lining themselves up for disappointment. Yes, games are going to look better. Yes, they're going to be optimized better, but the hardware that's in there now is limited. It's only going to get so far. That's the fact of it. And people who are wanting all these features, I wanted all these features from the Xbox and PlayStation. I wanted all those. I have those now on my PlayStation, on my PC, sorry. On my PC, it's running games at native 4K 60. Elden Ring is maxed out for me, and it looks gorgeous compared to the console footage that I've seen. So, in the end of the day, there is only so much that can be done. But I think Microsoft need to come out and say something, because I believe I've seen a spreadsheet where there are more PlayStation games or newer PlayStation games, not including all the back compat stuff that Xbox is doing, which is great, by the way, but there are more PlayStation games, newer PlayStation games, that are running better on PlayStation than they are on the Series X. And this whole world's most powerful console thing it's kind of frustrating to see that because it's not doing that right now. It's not doing that. And we've been told that, you know, which is correct. On paper, there is an 18 to 30% potential increase in performance over the PlayStation 5. And we are still yet to see that over a year on. And, you know, we talk about tools and stuff. Are these tools actually going to be used by developers, or are they just tools that can be used? Are tools that are on the Series X that aren't on PlayStation 5, are developers going to take the extra time to use those? Because right now, developers can't even get, well, many developers can't even seem to get games running fluidly on anything, let alone the PC. With all the specs, the ridiculous amounts of horsepower these PCs have, Elden Ring still has stuttering issues, for example, and that's a great developer. That's from a fantastic developer. Dying Light had bugs all over the shop. It was a mess. Cyberpunk recently, obviously, as we all know. So are they really going to be using all these features and doing all this stuff when they can barely even get games to run without ray tracing and features like that? I don't know, man. I don't know. But I think people are potentially lining themselves up for a little bit of disappointment. But anyway, that was it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments below, because I'm always interested to hear people's opinions. And if you know more, then let me know, because I'm always curious. So thank you for watching. Please do leave a like. Please do subscribe. And I'll see you in future videos. Bye-bye for now.